Okay. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for coming. We heard there was a basketball game downtown, so we tried to book the meeting a little bit further up from the convention center. My name is David Nagler. I work in community relations at the TTC. Just a few introductions before we get started. Many of you may be familiar with Mazen Aribi, who is currently, again, the chair of ACAT, the TTC's advisory committee for accessible transit. Staff rely on heavily for input to improve accessibility across the system. Sitting to Mazen's left is Dean Milton, who is one of our managers at Wheel-Trans, and to Dean's left, you may recognize such hits as the annual TTC Accessibility Forum. Dwayne is the acting head of Wheel-Trans. Just before we get into the presentation, it's about a 20-odd minute long presentation. I'd ask that during the presentation, please do hold your questions. We will get to as many questions as we can, and once we get to the Q&A, we'll take a number of questions at a time and then give staff a chance to answer questions in batches of 3 or 4. Other than that, just thank you very much for coming this evening, and I'm going to turn things over to Dwayne to get right into the presentation. Thank you.
Okay. All right. No, I don't need this. Okay. Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Dwayne Geddes. I am the acting head of Wheel-Trans, here to give you a brief update on our 10-year strategy, and I promise not to be long. I think one of the things that we said at the other public forum is that, and what we heard from you loud and clear, is that this isn't about us talking, this is about hearing what you have to say and hearing your feedback. So we're going to be very quick with this update and allow you the opportunity to ask as many questions as possible. So let's see if this works, and it does. So here's just a brief slide talking about our mission and our vision and what we strive for. We want to be a barrier-free, accessible service that is efficient, reliable, and available. And we strive for dignity, spontaneity, fairness, and freedom of travel for all customers. I'm going to quickly turn it over to the ACAT chair, Mazen Aribi, and he will say a few words before I continue on with the presentation.
Yes, no. Thank you, Dwayne. Good evening, everyone. It's really good to see everybody here on this important session. So, my name is Mazen Aribi, and I'm the current chair of the Advisory Committee on Accessible Transit, known as ACAT. I have served on ACAT for many years, and my first term began in 1998, over 20 years now. I have been a long-time advocate for accessible transit and inclusion. I myself am a Wheel-Trans customer, although I often choose to use the regular TTC when I can. I am a firm believer that every person in Toronto should be able to access the TTC's public transit services, regardless of their abilities. ACAT members work alongside TTC staff on many fronts to enhance the accessibility of all services at the TTC, including Wheel-Trans. We know Wheel-Trans customers have been facing challenges and always keep that in mind as we work towards making improvements. We have 4 subcommittees at ACAT. One of them is the Wheel-Trans Operations Subcommittee, which is devoted to Wheel-Trans services. ACAT has been involved in assessing and providing input to the Wheel-Trans transformation, which includes family of service and re-registration and conditional trip-matching. Achieving a fully accessible transit system is an ongoing commitment. Please know that all 15 ACAT members are dedicated volunteers working in their respective subcommittees with one common goal: increasing accessibility across Toronto. I would also like to take this opportunity to announce that if anyone wants to be involved in ACAT, we will be having 2 information sessions in July for new prospective members. Information can be found in the recent Access newsletter on the TTC website. Thank you all for attending and have a great evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mazen. Let's give Mazen a hand. So we're going to move right into this again. So I want somebody, hopefully somebody in the back is timing me. I don't want to be up here more than 6 minutes. So if we get to 6, somebody put their hand up and say, Dwayne, stop, okay? So customer focus. So we want to be able to, there are over 43,000 active Wheel-Trans customers, about 1,000 apply each month. Customers take 15,000 rides on peak days. And in 2018, customers took over 4.1 million rides. And we expect to do 4.2. So just so you know, in terms of paratransit agencies across North America, we're number 2. And we're only behind, guess? New York, exactly. We're only behind New York. So we're right up there with the best of the best. We have a new booking website, which I'm sure you are all aware of. 55% of our customers book through this new website. So we're very excited about that. It's a very high number. And more people are choosing to go to our online option. As well, we plan to launch a mobile app in 2019, which is going to give another option for our customers to be able to book trips. New customer-focused policies. We have 14 of these already on our website, and you should all be aware of them. If you're not, then you should please do check it out, or give us a call and let us know. We can pass them on to you. We can send them to you at home. And we also have 6 new that we're working on for 2019. Presto. There's an app solution in development. Buses and accessible taxis have working mobile Presto units. And as you can see here, we're looking to roll out in the winter of 2019 a mobile app for our sedan taxis. Community bus, we provide 5 scheduled routes in various communities within the city of Toronto. Community bus, they're fully accessible, scheduled service on a fixed route. You can flag them down along this route, and they're available to everyone. That's the big thing about community bus, and those are where they are: Lawrence Manor, Parkdale, Don Mills South, East York, and Etobicoke. Family of services. So this family of services is a very hot topic, and I'm sure we'll hear some comments from a number of you on family of services. Essentially, a family of services is a trip that combines Wheel-Trans with a conventional trip, whether that's a bus, streetcar, or subway. We pick up the customer and drop them off at their final destination. So we will talk a lot more about that tonight, I'm sure. Using family of services, all new family of services routes have new stop poles to mark shared Wheel-Trans stops, and there's a picture of it over there on the side. They are new stop poles that have blue no-show board attached directly to them, so that's what the picture depicts. It depicts a blue no-show board on the pole, and Wheel-Trans customers who use family of services will have their routes monitored for service delays and emergencies by dispatch. Customer mode usage survey. So we're excited about this. This survey was done with Wheel-Trans customers. We did one in January to April of this year. And what we did is we asked Wheel-Trans customers when they called in, we said, how did you take your trip yesterday or the day before? What was your last trip? And it was very good to see that 18% of our customers were telling us that they were taking the conventional system on their own. So Wheel-Trans customers deciding, you know what, I'm just going to take the conventional system. So that's just showing us how much more accessible our system has become over the years. You know, we started with streetcars that none of them were accessible, and now we have more and more streetcars that are accessible. All of our buses are accessible. More and more of our stations are accessible. So we're really excited about that, and eventually the whole entire network will be accessible, and we want everyone to be able to take advantage of that. Travel training, a successful 6-month travel training pilot launched in summer of 2018, and there's Desrianne there in the picture, our travel trainer. And spring and summer is a great time to travel train, so please, Desrianne is here. Desrianne, wave your hand. She's in the back there, so ask for Desrianne. She can set you up with travel training and give you a lot more information about that. She was also in the beginning there when you were walking in. There's a lot more information you can get on that. Conditional trip matching. So what this is, essentially, is when you book your trip, you will receive a trip based on your condition and your abilities. So conditional eligible customers have the ability to use conventional transit when their conditions are not present. And customers who receive conditional eligibility after completing their Wheel-Trans registration will travel using family services starting this fall, 2019. So this fall, it's coming soon. Re-registration, another hot topic. It will allow customers to update their profiles and medical history. It is fair and ensures equity under the AODA. Re-registration will only be for Wheel-Trans customers who registered with Wheel-Trans before January 1st, 2017. And we'll begin in the winter again, a winter of 2019, so later this year. This process will assess customers according to 3 eligibility categories: conditional, unconditional, and temporary. Access hubs. I'm sure you've all heard about our access hubs. We have one, that's the picture over there is just one of the one that we have at Meadowvale and Shepherd. The second one is at Humber College, which is gonna open it's ready to go. We're just gonna open it up. Sunday. Wow, fantastic, hot off the press. These are just big transfer points between Wheel-Trans and TTC service areas across the city. They're dry, well lit, heated, and can accommodate multiple mobility devices. Absolutely, they are. Question and answer, facilitated. Oh, so are we ready to do this question and answer?
So,
well,
yes,
fantastic.
so I will...
Did I go through that 6 minutes pretty good? Was that all right? Are we ready to hear from everybody else now? Because I'm tired of talking. You guys ready to talk? That was too slow, did you say? That wasn't fast enough? I was really going fast. I was trying to go quick there. Okay.
Okay, so just before we start with the Q&A, so Dwayne and Dean and Mazen will be busy. We are going to have a couple of individuals with microphones who are going to come in, and they will switch from side to side in the room. They'll be inside in a minute. So we are going to take one question on this side of the room, and then we'll take another question on the other side. So I'm going to take questions in batches of 3. And so we can get to as many questions as possible. Mazen, Dwayne, and Dean are going to take notes, and then they're going to answer the questions back to back to back and have 3. So I see Noah is at the back of the room. Noah, please raise your hand. He's going to have a microphone momentarily. Lemma, if you can please bring him a microphone as soon as possible. And I am going to pass this microphone first to, so Noah, if you can grab that side of the room. So we'll start on this side of the room, and you can start using the microphone I have in my hand. So is there a question from this side of the room? Right, I'll start right here, and then we'll go to that side.
Hi, I'm not very happy with the plans to put people who have conditional eligibility to be forced to use family of services. I mean, I'm somebody who has conditional eligibility because of an autoimmune disease that flares, and I get bedbound, literally, and still have to go to doctor's appointments. And that's why I need door-to-door service at times. And like, I do use 9 out of 10 trips on the TTC are conventional transit for me, and I use it, but I get problems. Like, for example, getting here, it took me 3 buses on Sherbourne because 2 of them bypassed me. I don't need to deal with that nonsense and the problems that you get with Wheel-Trans with them being late at times at the same time. So, you know, 3 different steps on each trip that can have variously long problems. And it's just, I find it really stressful because I don't want to do family of services. I understand you guys needing us to use conventional transit as much as possible, but I'm really, really disappointed in this plan because it really puts me at a serious disadvantage.
Thank you very much. I imagine concerns about using the conventional system will be a common concern shared amongst many this evening. So Noah, if you could bring the microphone to this side, and then we'll go back, and then we'll get the first 3, and then we'll have answers.
Yeah, mine's a question about the booking. When you're booking a 2-way trip on the online tool right now, if you get a result that comes back where there might be a trip that seems to be a satisfactory time for one direction on your trip, but the second one might say we don't have a trip available. So at the bottom of the screen, it then gives you a choice. Would you like to go on the waiting list? If you say yes, then the trip that you actually see at the top that you actually like, you lose it too. It goes to wait list. Both go to wait list. Is there a way to separate that so that you can say that you will take that first offering and you would like your other trip that they aren't able to accommodate to go on the waiting list? And if that can't be done, we have to split it up somehow different. Thanks.
Okay, so good question about website bookings and logistics. Back to this side, and Noah, if you can take a question from this side of the back, and then we'll go to your question next. So, yeah, right there.
Yeah, 2 questions, sir. One is, you know, sometimes, very rarely anyway, if I don't have any money to pay, After that, how do I pay that to you, to the TTC, Wheeltrans? That is one question. The other question is this trying to book through the telephone is very, very long. It takes long time. Sometimes, many times I fail to book with that.
Okay, so we're now going to go to Dwayne and Dean for answers. So the first question and concern about conditional eligibility and concerns with having to use the conventional system, buses bypassing, just general concerns about having that conditional eligibility being implemented on Wheeltrans.
Okay, so I'll answer that one. Thank you for that question. So we've been hearing this concern from a lot of our customers, and I think it's important to remember here that we are not forcing anybody who's not capable of using the system to use the system. That's the number one point here. If you are we're asking people who are capable of using the system, the conventional system, to use the conventional system. That's it. If you're not capable, or if you have a good day or a bad day, or if you can't travel during rush hour, or if you're not capable, if your conditions are present, you will be getting a door-to-door trip. So I think it's important to know. I know that there's a lot of customers who have individual cases and they're case-by-case basis, and those are ones that we will look at individually. I encourage you to contact our customer service team, and we can look at those cases on an individual basis. In fact, there was an email that we received through ACAT about somebody who couldn't come tonight, and they had a concern as well. So I think they wanted us to address that. So we won't have to say her name, but similar question to what you brought up. So for anybody who has a similar concern, I encourage you to contact our customer service center so we can look at it. If you feel as though you're not capable of taking the conventional system, please contact us so we can look at your case. We can look at it, we can do an assessment, and we can review. But again, the goal of this family of services trip isn't to force people who cannot take the system to use the system. That's not what we're doing at all. All we are asking for, we have to sustain this system. As you can well imagine, this is a system that carries 4.1 million customers every single year. It's a lot of people. It takes a lot of resources to do this. We are funded by the City of Toronto. We have to find ways to sustain Wheeltrans. We don't want to lose Wheeltrans. We know it's a great service, but we have to find ways to make it work for everyone. And what we're asking for is those customers who are capable of using the conventional system. We're asking you to take the conventional system.
All right, we'll get to the second. I don't know if this mic has been turned off momentarily, so I will yell. The second question, concern about the website and initial options popping up for a trip, but then not being able to actually book that option being pushed to the second option. So I don't know, Dean, if.
I'll attempt to answer that question. It's a rather specific question. So what I would suggest is that we take that question after this particular meeting. There are many members, staff members from Wheeltrans who could look at that specific question and see if they could come up with a rational answer. It's just too difficult to sort of fathom what is actually going on the screen. So we'll handle it. I believe that was your question, right, Louise?
Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, the recommendation is that it just it's on doing the return trips. So when you have the top result and the bottom result, you're going out result, you're coming back result. If you put the choice of putting waiting list, instead of having one choice at the very bottom for both ways, split it. So you have the top one, it will say, would you leave it alone? You accept this offering. The second one you could have, I will accept the waiting list or cancel. So you can split the results. It's just a web coding thing that should solve it.
Okay. There's another gentleman had two questions. His second question I know was a very common one, and it was concerns about just the wait times on the phone just being excessively long. And yes, I know that's a very common concern, and I think, Dwayne, you can speak to some actions that will be taken soon to help cut into those wait times.
Yes, so again, that's another common question, so let me address that in case there are more questions about it. This is something that I talked about at the Accessible Forum in December. We are aware of the wait times, and we have started to hire staff to address the wait times. So you will start to see the relief soon. It does take some time for us to hire and train and get them behind the seat, but we have taken the steps. We have an additional 15 bodies that are coming on site for us to help with this, to assist with the wait times. We understand that it's an issue, and our goal is to address that issue. So we are working very diligently at doing that.
And the gentleman had a first question. I didn't get notes for his first question. I don't, Dwayne or Dean, if you had notes on the gentleman's first questions, I didn't have notes for it. If Noah, if you could bring the microphone back to the gentleman there and just have him repeat the first question because we didn't catch it. And then after this, we'll take another 3 questions back to back. But just let the gentleman repeat.
So due to some reason or other, say I don't have a Presto card or money to pay the trip. So I don't like to do that because you are doing a big service. So where can I pay that money later?
So we don't have an option, so I do remember the question. We don't have an option for you to pay later. You do have to pay at the time of boarding. So you bring up a valid point here, and there are some customers who are not paying. It's going to be important for everybody to understand that there will become a time when we will not allow you to board the vehicle. We have to crack down on this. Customers, we can't be expected to get on a Wheel-Trans vehicle not paying for us to take you across the city. It's not going to happen. So I encourage everyone to have your fares ready when you're boarding a Wheel-Trans vehicle. Otherwise, you could face being rejected the ride. Okay, so very important that you have your money ready.
So on my right-hand side of the room, Mina is now going to help us on this side. So Mina, do you want to take 2 questions on this side, and then we'll go to the other side? Yes, you're next.
Thank you. One is a comment that I would like to make because I'm reading as we go what is being typed, and the person that's taking down and trying to transcribe on the screen here is not exactly accurate with what is being said with all the presenters that are up here in front. I've noticed the words are completely off from what is being discussed. And my question is, if a person has a conditional ride, like registration with Wheel-Trans that's conditional, and it says on it, must travel with an escort or companion, whichever, I don't remember the proper word. Why is it that if the person who is requesting the ride, the companion that travels with them is another handicapped person that cannot ride in a sedan taxi?
Okay. So we'll take another question from the lady right in front.
My question is, I want to know if a bus driver, TTC, not TTC, that Wheel-Trans, can to tell you where to sit down, or if the bus is empty and you feel comfortable and you can stretch up your legs and get upset, or I can have to tell him. He got so mad at me, excuse me that I'm saying it. It happened last week. One driver, he asked me to sit in the back and folding with my leg. I have problem with my knees, and I have to stretch my knees, and he was after me to sit on the other one when I'm not comfortable, when the chair behind the driver was empty. So why are they so upset about it? I asked him, that's the first time in 5.5 years that I'm with Wheel-Trans that he did it to me. And he was so mad. He tells me he worked 14 years. I don't care how much he works. But his attitude was very conceited. I'm sorry to say it. And I didn't like it. And I went to shop, and I had to sit down about 20 minutes until I relaxed. I don't need that.
Okay.
I have had problem too.
Okay. We'll follow up with you and get details and see if we can actually
And
trace back
another
the
one, I
specific
have another
vehicle.
question.
Yeah.
One time it was about 5.5 hours until I got through. Twice, every 2 hours, it was disconnected.
Okay. We'll get to those two questions: the phone again, and the operator behavior on the vehicle. So we're going to take two questions now, Noah, from this side of the room.
Hi there. Hi there.
It's on.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
I
we
just
can
had a
hear you.
question about something. I was about the TTC streetcars. It said we're supposed to have 204 streetcars by December or January. And in the past, why did it say, was it important to note that some old legacy streetcars may remain in the fleet until 2024? I thought they were supposed to be retired around January in the past, but why did they state that in some articles in the past? I'm not sure why, but the only concern is that there were 248 streetcars, and the TTC has ordered 204 new streetcars from Bombardier, and so far we have like 150 of them thus far, and we're expecting 204, all of them here by December or January, if I'm not mistaken. And because I'm still concerned, are we still going to be short on some streetcars on some routes? Because we know that as it stands today, this is May 2019, and as it stands right now, the new low-level streetcars are currently running on the 504 King, 509 Harborfront, 510 Spadina, 512 St. Clair, and they are now being introduced on the route to 501 Queen. Do you have information as to when the other routes will start to see new streetcars? Can you provide it to us if you can shortly, though? But I was just wondering about, because during rush hour, I'm not sure how many streetcars you may have in the entire system, so I wonder, because why do they talk about leaving some legacy streetcars for a few more years after beyond 2020? Because even if they do leave some, they were talking about maybe supplementing some rush hour service, but I know they will not be out all day. I know they will not be out on weekends, because there should be enough new streetcars to cover weekend services. But
Okay,
I need to also keep some old streetcars of charters and that.
Okay,
What do you think?
we have the question about the schedule and deployment of the low-floor accessible LRVs. So the first question for Dean and Dwayne to address was regarding conditional rides and having an escort and wanting a specific vehicle, and not wanting flexibility in terms of the vehicle for the escort, who also is a Wheel-Trans rider, and making sure that flexibility can be provided.
Yeah, so just to address that, sorry, this mic is intermittently going out.
There you go.
Just to address that question. So there is I want to make sure I understand that. I think this sort of has two different facets to it. Conditional eligibility. So there is one of the conditional eligibility, one of the actual conditions is a loan. So in this case, there are certain customers who have conditional eligibility, and when they're traveling alone, they will have door-to-door service. But when they are traveling with a companion or a support person, they are able to utilize the TTC's conventional service. The other question, though, is it sounds to me like there was a situation where an individual was traveling with a companion or a support person, and a sedan or the wrong vehicle was dispatched to accommodate them, and this individual, in this case, was a sedan taxi. And I'm assuming, although the individual didn't make it specifically clear, that they perhaps were utilizing using a wheelchair, whereas a walker, and there was not adequate enough space for that individual. So that can happen for a couple of reasons. It certainly could be that the ride was dispatched incorrectly onto a sedan taxi. But what we have found as well is sometimes the customer, when scheduling that trip, is not clear on what their companion is going to be utilizing as a mobility device. So if that's not crystal clear at the time of booking, it could happen that the wrong vehicle is sent and there is not adequate space. However, given that I don't know the specifics, what I would say is after this meeting, we certainly can take down your registration number and do a full investigation to find out exactly where it went wrong.
Okay. The next question was a concern about an operator behavior. A long-time Wheel-Trans customer indicating that, for one of the first times, the driver, gave you directions to go to the back when there was a space up front, and it was a very, uncomfortable and sort of inconsiderate type of experience. Yeah.
Yeah, so when it comes to operator behavior, I mean, we expect nothing but professionalism from our operators, from our contractors, anybody who works under a Wheel-Trans contract. So we expect all drivers to behave professionally, and that sounds like this was an unprofessional situation. So we would need to get the information from you so we can do a full investigation. I encourage everybody. So if there are any other stories like that where you have a bad experience with an operator, this is where we need you to report them to us. We expect the most out of our drivers and all of our employees, and when they don't act right or when they don't act professionally or appropriate, that's up to us as management to address those concerns. So we just ask that you provide that information to us so we can take the appropriate action with those drivers.
The next, yep, sorry, go ahead. Right. So we'll, yeah. If you have, yeah, if you, we'll check the data, like get your contact information so we can actually trace it back to the date and time. Yeah, right, okay. There was another question from a gentleman on this side before regarding the deployment of the low-floor accessible streetcar fleet. So I wanted to speak, first off, you mentioned you read an article that said there was a date of 2024. I can assure you from speaking to our folks who work in streetcar operations that that is erroneous. We will not have the old streetcars on the road until 2024. They simply won't last that long, and Bombardier is finally on schedule. Their meetings finally meeting schedules to have the full 204 here for 2020. So I don't know where you read that, sir, but that article was erroneous. Our people are working miracles to keep those old vehicles on the street, but they certainly will not be on the street until 2024.
I'll just address, there was another comment about wait times. Somebody said they were waiting for 5.5 hours on the phone. Oh, yes. Again, that was something that I addressed my previous comments. We are aware of the wait times. We are addressing the wait times. So, and
just also in terms of requests, we will have information over the next number of months about the specific route order, where in terms, I don't know if you're interested in St. Clair or College or the 506 or other routes. Yes. 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 Yes, including College, Carleton, and Gerrard, which currently would be the last one to be deployed. Yes. Yes. Yes, we'll have that online. So we're going to take two more questions, Mina, from this side, and then two more questions from this side. And so if we can take two from the back this time on this side, and Noah, once it's this side's turn, if you can come and take two from the front. So we'll start on the side here.
My first point is around the telephone and the wait times. Yep. So they are what they are. I get that, and that TTC is working on them. Currently, when you call in, I've had wait times of an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours. So it tells you you are caller number 40 or caller number 30. Is there any way for it to update you and tell you you're caller number 20, you're caller 15, now you're caller 6, so that at least if you know you're closer to the end, you might want to hang on a few more minutes rather than just abandoning it and hanging up. And my second comment is around the Life Happens points. Currently, when you go into your profile, there's no way to know where you are that particular month with your Life Happens points. So at least if it can be documented that on this date and that date you have incurred 1 point or 2 points, and that way you can adjust yourself properly so that you do not go over in that month and become suspended for service. Thank you.
All right, well, we'll take another question from this side, and then we'll take two from the other side. So, Mina's. Okay. If you're waiting, I know it's frustrating, but we will get to lots of questions. We have lots of time.
I've got two questions, and I'll make them quick, and then a comment. First of all, when it comes to the re-registration, what order or what algorithm or method are you using to pick when people get the re-registration letters and stuff? And are you coordinating and actually reaching out to the larger institution or even the larger community health centers like Vibrant Health Center and Johnson site that has hundreds of patients that are all Wheel-Trans users that will probably daily you with application. And one last point, I know that ACAT is involved in helping you with this 10-year plan. My concern is that ACAT had a meeting today, and I know that because I was supposed to depute, but I moved my deputation because I knew I couldn't handle going from that meeting right to this meeting, and I knew this meeting wasn't important. My recommendation is that you do not put key meetings like this where you want as many ACAT members as much to come. Don't put these meetings back to back. It's like when I go to a community meeting with my city councilor and they've been for a full day of council meetings. When they get there that evening, they're in no shape to really consult with the community.
Okay, good. Okay, point well taken. And then we'll take 2 questions from the. Noah, if you could come to the front on this side, and then the middle, and then we'll get to the four answers. There are many people waiting. We have a full another hour. I assure you we will get to your question.
I had a real problem last week. It seems every time I go to the Bay on Queen, taxi drivers don't know where to pick me up. We're told to be in certain door. The address doesn't make sense. They say 176 Yonge. Well, the pickup is on Queen Street. I had a major problem where also I had to go to the Kensington Clinic on College and Spadina. Well, believe it or not, there were no elevators and no escalators to go up on College. I can barely walk upstairs. Do you know if this was a temporary case, or is there any chance that at College there's going to be an elevator?
So, okay, well, I will answer that one. But yeah, quickly, yes, there are plans right now being developed for College Station to become accessible, and there will be construction starting by 2020 at the latest. So we'll take one more from this side, and then we'll get to the rest of the answers. Yeah, and then we'll get back to he'll come back.
Okay. First of all, I had to thank the services, but only thing is something happened in the administration. There's no coordination, sometime I found, from the administration and the driver. And for example, last Friday, I was there in the mosque, and before that, they told me the Wheel-Trans bus is coming. One bus came, second bus came, third bus came. Every time when I go and ask, my name is not there. Later on, I was waiting for a long time to get to speak with those people. That means in the customer service or some other relevant society, relevant place. When I give a call, I had to wait half an hour and call. Not half an hour, and more than half an hour. Around 1 hour, I think, I was waiting. After 1 hour, what happened was, again, they told me they are sending, and again, after half an hour's time, it came. So this shouldn't be happen. This is the problem between the administration. And at the same time, now the commuters, Wheel-Trans customers have become more. So according to that, you have to adjust the operators, all the staff in the administrative side. You have to increase your staff also to give better service. This is not like that. The same staff, the customer is more mean, the administration is wrong.
Okay, staff, I think it's fair to say staff absolutely agree with your comment, and I think there are a lot of in terms of the phone lines and needing to staff up, and Dwayne is, I think, and the team have actually just finally won approval to hire more bodies to help. There's a lot of hands, a lot of people waiting who are getting antsy. So, sir, if you could wrap up, I'm actually going to take 2 more questions. We're going to take 4 more questions, and then we'll get to answers. So, if you want to just wrap up, it's the phone line being the major concern.
Okay,
Fair.
thank you.
Okay, so let's take, Noah, let's take 2 more here, and then we'll go to this side for 2 more. Okay? Yes. And for those, there are a number of people watching online, and for those who are watching the online stream who aren't here tonight, you can submit written questions, and we will get to those as best we can. Yes.
Hello, is it possible to request not to get a vehicle? I got a motorized van the other day, which is exceptionally difficult to get into. They got narrow ledges. I can't get into them at all. Can I request not to get one?
Okay.
Yes, definitely. Thank you.
Okay. Let's take 1 more question here, and then we're going to go to this side of the room. So, no, if we can go 1 more question on this side of the room, and then we're going to go to this side for 2.
I have an issue. I did try to go into the website last night, and then I received a warning telling me that it was unsafe to go into the website, that they could have my credit card number and the whole thing. I was going through the browser Mozilla Firefox. I checked in another website, and there was no issue. And then this morning, it was the same issue. I called to customer service. They didn't have an answer for that. And then I went into the, I tried to go into the website through another browser, I think I went with Chrome, and I didn't have that issue. So could you please see what is going on with the website?
Yes. So let's take now 3 questions on this side of the room, and then we will get to the last about 7 questions we'll get answered. So let's take 3 from this side of the room if Mina is around. Okay.
Good evening. My name is Mrs. Elizabeth Nason. I sometimes tell the people whom I converse with on TTC, my name is Granny. And I'm standing here right in my very own home, of which I've been a member for almost 50 years, and a Eucharistic minister for a couple of years, and provided Toronto, Canada World representative, my president and representative, providing for provisions for those in need, Toronto, Canada World. I want to make a comment on the customer service staff. And if any of you should be here tonight, I would say from 1 to 10 for their behavior. For 1 to 10, I give them a 10 plus for their competency and their pleasantness. And they need a big applause, and I would like you to applaud them. And we need people like that, and we have to inspire them and support them in their work so that they can help us. Then for those who pick us up, the drivers, from 1 to 10, I give a 9 plus. They are wonderful people. They are actually our family. And when I come in contact with them, I tell them, I'm going to take care of you. And especially when it's slippery and icy, I tell them, please go slowly. Take your time, as long as you get us home. Because I told them, we have to take care of you. But there's just less than 1%, which their behavior, I don't think they are good people, but they should not be in the presence of a public, especially with people who need support and help. And I had this horrible experience yesterday where they were supposed to, I have 2 entrances, and I make notation always, go to, in High Park, at 255 Glen Lake, front entrance. And what I can see them from my window when they are there, because there are many other taxis, the same cars, that also pick up, that also picking up the passengers, the challenge passengers. What happened, because it happened so once that I ended up in a taxi Wheel-Trans, which was not for me. But yesterday, but of course it was a very pleasant exchange that time. But yesterday, the driver, instead of come to the front at 255 Glen Lake High Park, he went to the back entrance, and the back entrance is steep and stairs. And I told him when I came out, I said, I've been watching for you at 255 Glen Lake. He said he was there. I said, no, I've been watching from the windows. It were other taxis for other passengers.
Okay.
So it was very rude. What he did, he shouted at me as if I am a dog. And I told him, I'm not a dog. Don't treat me like a dog. I'm a human being. And it's just, and I have his name. And I said, he wouldn't. And I asked him, could I have your name? And I never name these drivers on their first name.
So I want to make sure we get to every question. That's a very serious incident, and we would like to follow up with you after.
I'm going to take it further.
We'd like to follow up with you after and get the contact information, but I want to make sure we get to every question. So we'll get the details.
I'm going to take it further.
Yes, okay.
I'm going to go to the TVs. I'm going because I almost had a stroke, and there were other people, the residents in High Park, they were right there, they noticed it. And they said, that's not right. They said, report it. I said, I don't like reporting it because that man could have children with a wife and then they were out.
Okay, so on behalf of TTC, I'd like to apologize for that behavior that you had to encounter. That's not acceptable, but we have to investigate that, so we'll get the information. But we have a lot of hands up in the air, so Mina, if we could go to the next question, we will follow up and make sure we get details of that incident. Thank you. So we want to take another question from this side, and then we have about 8 answers to get to.
Hello there. Good evening. Hyacinth Davis. Hello? Yeah. I'm Hyacinth Davis, and I have a main concern. I had to phone the office because last week sometime I called Monday and Tuesday, and I didn't get no answer. And I leave my number. 2 days straight, no one called me. So I had to call, the head office and complain. No one calls me. Why? And they told me that, well, there's nothing they can do about it. I should go online. I said, but I don't have a computer. How am I going to go online? I have to call. I have MS. It's not easy. Like the young lady says, some days your body is not good. And I cannot do it all the time. I cannot take the wheelchair, and the TTC. I can't do it. I have MS 6 years now, and it's not easy on my body. So sometimes when I do call them, I need for them to answer the phone. Like call me back when I put my number in. They don't call me back. So I complain about it, and they says, well, there's nothing they could do. I have to wait my turn or go online. I said, but I don't have a computer. What should I do? I don't know what else to do anymore.
Okay, so we're going to deal with that. So there are a lot of questions. We're going to get to quick answers right now so we can get right back to questions. So the gentleman on the side over here had made a good recommendation about updating the phone lines. So if you're caller 40, can it update it when you're closer so you know how far back you are, like number 10, number 5? Yes. Understood. So go ahead.
So yeah, that's a great suggestion, Chris. As well as we've been asked to tell exactly how much time it'll be before the call gets answered as well. So that's something that we have to work with our IT team on. Right now, the capability of the system that we have in there, it's not available. That's something that we'd have to upgrade to and then work with IT on. So we can certainly take that back and see what we can do with that. Absolutely.
Next question was about the online profiles and Life Happens and points needing to have quick access to the status and wanting an update to how our website works so you can quickly get access to that status.
So again, another good comment. Obviously, that's important that our customers are able to keep track of their Life Happens points. So I think that is in the works, Chris. So that is something that we want our customers to be able to access their profile and see on a monthly basis where they're at. So again, it's forthcoming with all the upgrades. It's just a question of which phase we're going to be able to introduce that in, but good question.
Other gentlemen had first point, and heads were nodding up front. The next time there's an ACAT meeting, not to have a big meeting like this the same night. Absolutely, that won't be done again. So your other questions and points that you raised, is TTC doing any outreach to community health centers around the re-registration? And will there be an algorithm that is set in terms of selecting how the queue is set up in terms of who is actually asked to re-register? So the first question, maybe Dean, you could speak to in terms of outreach to health centers.
Sure. So I think it makes sense. Obviously, just so everybody's aware, there are 24,000 customers that are what we call customers who have registered before January 1st, 2017. So in order to be fair and equitable, every one of those customers will go through the re-registration process. So it's not a question of is everybody, are there certain people that are not? Everybody, in consultation with both the advisory committee, our legal and human rights departments, that seemed to be the fairest way in which to do it. So the other question, I believe, Adam, was whether or not has there been any thought in terms of how you start and where you start. So certainly, what we can tell you is a review of the number of trips taken by our customers that are legacy customers shows that the 10,000 of the 24,000 customers have actually taken almost 85% of all the trips. So in terms of requirements, in terms of needing the most access to transit, this would be the logical place to start. So to start with the 10,000 customers in terms of customers that utilize the system frequently, and then work our way through. It's going to take some time, folks. This is not something that's going to happen by the end of this year. As Dwayne mentioned, this is an initiative we hope to start this year, and we certainly need to do communication, let people know when it's happening. Rest assured, everybody will be given ample time to start the re-registration process. Your status will remain the same during that process. So we understand this is going to take some time. So we don't want to cause any undue stress amongst anybody, but it is going to be done, and it's just carefully done over a period of time. We're not in a rush to get this to push people through. We just need to do this to be fair.
The next one. So I'm just going to go in order. We can get to that question. We have to go in order. There was a lady at the front had concerns first. The secondary one was about College Station, and it will become accessible. But the other important one was about Wheel-Trans taxi drivers in particular not being familiar with locations or being at the wrong location. I think you mentioned Yonge. Did you mention? Okay, so there was a question on this side of the room with, maybe it was at the very front, yes, with some of the taxi operators on Wheel-Trans not being familiar with certain locations. Okay, so the next one was concern with the type of vehicle and specifically a motorized van and not being able to have access to it. Okay, so.
Yes, so the question is if there's a certain type of vehicle that you are physically incapable of using, and I stress the word incapable of using. It's not, we obviously have to remain as flexible as possible. We are providing a lot of trips to a lot of customers, so it's not a question of preference. But if there is a situation whereby there's a safety issue or you are physically unable to, then certainly the customer service representatives can make that adjustment on your profile.
Next concern was raised about, there's a lady who tried to log in to the website, I believe today or yesterday, and the Chrome browser worked, but the Firefox browser was raising a security alert. So Dean had mentioned they were going to check with IT. They've sent already a note to IT to check in to see if there's some issue specifically to Firefox that they can clean up. The next question, there was a couple of nice comments about customer service staff and drivers, but then a serious concern about one particular driver for the pickup at 255 Glen Lake and some inappropriate behavior. So that's something we'll have to follow up and get the specifics of that trip so we can trace down that particular operator. And then the next one was a lady on the side here who'd mentioned you called into Wheel-Trans both Monday and Tuesday. Currently, has MS, needs a call back, not able to use the website, and hasn't got a call back. So we'll get those details and make sure that you get the information that you need as soon as possible. And now we can open things up. Let's take 3 more questions from either side of the room. I think this side is next, and then no, if you can come after that question to the middle, next to the middle, and then we'll take 3 here and then 3 this side.
Hello, gentlemen. Thank you for allowing me to answer the question. My first concern, the time taking to get a call to book an appointment, very, very difficult in the TTC. That is one thing. We are taking more than 2 hours sometimes. It is a great thing. Second one is, sometimes when you ask family services to book, they said no, family service is not allowed for your people. You have to, I don't know where to get that permission. I don't know. That is a type of answer they are giving.
Okay,
Third one, I am telling.
So, sir, at the front of the room, a number of people couldn't hear your first question. I'm just going to ask you, could you please repeat the first question?
Third one,
It's on now.
I want to tell, thank you very much. Your people are very, very good. We are not complaining against your TTC staff. They are very cooperative with us. Thank you.
Okay, so no, if you could just go back, we didn't hear the gentleman's first question. Yeah, the microphone, we couldn't hear from the microphone. So you just repeat the first question you had, sir. First question is, when you book an appointment or booking time or the TTC 416-393-422, it takes more than 2 hours. Gotcha,
No answer.
okay. So that clearly is the most common concern of the evening is the very, very, very long wait times on the phone. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. We couldn't hear the first one. So 2 more questions from this side, and then we'll go 3 on the other side. If you go right there, Noah, yeah. Yes, you're next. Right, Noah, behind, yeah.
This lady was first.
Okay.
Hi, thank you. My case is a very specific one because I'm a lupus patient for 37 years, and I'm very extremely sensitive to light. So that the light will make me sick and trigger my illness and cause the flare up. So I have to use the wheelchair, the door-to-door service. I can't go out to take the bus. So after hearing the re-registration, I'm so concerned about it. So I would like to know more about the re-registration. Does the light sensitive considered as a sensory disability? And also, I would like to know, do we have to fill in the form by the physician? Because I only see my specialist twice a year. I will see him late this September. So I would like to have the form, if we need to fill in the form, so that I can let him to sign in and have all the information ready for you to process. And also my parents in Hong Kong are very sick, and at any times I have to, if they are very sick, I have to go back. So in case in the processing time, if I'm not here, then what happened? And also, actually, sitting in the taxi, sedan taxi is too much for me, the light. Accessible taxi is better for me because otherwise the light would make me feel not well. So can I specify that I would like to have the accessible tax? And also the third question is, last time, I just learned how to use the online booking. I made it by the phone line, the ride line service, and I booked 2 days. And it's being confirmed, that the trip was confirmed. But I tried the booking online as some other trip, then the booking on the ride line being changed to wait list. I don't know why. And one more question is, once I go to the plaza, and the driver said that he didn't know that he has to pick me up in the supermarket. Actually, I told I have the record there to pick me up in the supermarket, but the details has been deleted. I don't know why. And
Okay, so we have 5 questions from you, so we'll make sure to get to all of them. If we can go, Noah, to the next question on this side, and then we'll get to 3 over here. Thank you.
Thank you. First of all, I wanted to express my gratitude to the TTC for the wonderful service that we have. We're so lucky, I feel, in Toronto. I've been using the service now for about 3 years. I might have missed something here, but it's about the family of services. I've never used it, but my question is, if the subway is delayed, which it often is at the moment, and I need to connect with a Wheel-Trans pickup time, like if the subway is delayed, say 15 minutes or something, then what happens to my pickup driver? You see what I mean? That's one question. The other is regarding the criteria for the re-registration when it happens. What kind of criteria are you using to keep people on the books or not have them on the books? The other is really an echo of what other people have been saying about the phone lines. I mean, I do sympathize a lot, but I find myself on the phone like 1 hour, 40 minutes waiting, and when I finally get through, then I get cut off, have to start all over again. That's happened to me twice last week. So it's exhausting and a terrific waste of time. So I wonder if any improvement can be made in the phone service. Thank you.
Okay, now we'll take 3 questions on this side of the room, and then we will get to the answers. Yeah.
My comment is about the online booking thing. I'm hoping that the app is going to be better, but the Modify Trips feature is broken. Has been since just about like a month or so after it was first introduced. I sent in documented screenshots, feedback about what happens. You can go in there and you'll say, give me a different time, and it'll go, sure, you can have this one, and you'll go, okay, great, submit. You go back and nothing has changed. I have documented this. I have sent emails in complaining about this so many times. It got fixed at one point, and that lasted for, I don't know, a couple of months or something, maybe, and it has been broken ever since. So if that could be fixed, please. At one point, I discovered that if I canceled the trip that I was already on and then rebooked it, I would be able to get the times that were originally shown when I tried to modify it. But lately, for the last few weeks, I haven't been able to do that. So I don't know what's going on, but that particular system is really broken. And the other thing that I have a whole sheet here that I'm going to pass into somebody, and you can read all the rest of the stuff. But also, when you have these meetings, can you please let us know specifically whether we need to book our rides home? Because there's nothing about that on the announcement on the website. And I got here and I said, are we supposed to do this? And the person said, well, yes, you were. And I thought, there's nothing to say that. And usually, or sometimes, they will have buses waiting out there to take us home. But if you could specify that, then that would just make a whole lot easier.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So we'll take, Mina, we'll take a couple more from this side.
Yeah, this lady.
Oh, yeah, who's ever next in line?
Oh, sorry. Yes, Dean knows me, and I have to admit, I've been on Wheel-Trans so long that getting re-registered, I mean, I've got so much wrong with me now, but it's useless. But anytime I've said something's wrong with me, they've dealt with it. And if I'm on the big buses, I often say something's wrong with me. I may not be feeling well or whatever. And I said, are you sure you want to take me? They said, yeah. So I've been lucky over the years that I've been able to get that kind of service. And anytime something's happened to me, my scooters broke down a couple times on the last few years. The last time was, about 3 weeks ago. And the girl helped me, and my tire was flat. And she said, are you okay? I said, yeah. Now you go on your merry way. And I managed to get in the house. And another girl picked me up at Danforth Broadview one day, and she was good. And the drivers I've had, I've told the guys.
Okay. So is your concern about the re-registration process, and is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
And like I said, the guys have been very good to me. And, the one guy I had mouthed off to me one night, I said, you put a sign up in your window, you can't take handicapped people. And he looked at me. And I said, no, you don't want a handicapped person on the bus, then don't. And when I've been on the bus, people have helped me, as well as the driver.
Okay.
So I can't complain that they've been really, really good.
Okay. So we will speak. They'll speak to the re-registration sort of process. I think that's the gist of your concern. Let's take one more, and then we'll get to a few answers, and then we'll get to more questions.
Okay. Yeah, my name is Sanira. I've been using Wheel-Trans for many years, and I'm very happy with the service. Most of the time, I've had good service. I usually get sedans, so sometimes I get some sedan drivers that are in a bad mood and they're rude. But other than that, the service is good. My one concern is that when you book on online Wheel-Trans, I've had a few occasions that I booked the 2 trips the night before, and the next day those trips have been cancelled. So that is something that needs to be looked into. It happened with me for this Friday. I booked 2 trips for Friday, and I checked this morning, and the trips were gone. So there's something wrong with the online system that needs to be checked. Why the trips get cancelled, deleted, when you booked them the night before.
Okay, so let's take one more and then we'll get to answers.
Hi, I use the Ride Line, and I noticed that there's been a change when you book a ride and it will put you on the waiting list, but then it automatically wants to transfer you to a person, which that means you can't continue with booking the rest of your rides. I wonder if that's going to be changed.
Okay. All right, so let's work in reverse order to how these questions were asked. There's a lot in the queue. So the most recent one, the ride line and getting transferred to a live person, is there any way that that can just be reviewed or looked at so you can just book in an automated way?
So to be perfectly blunt, that's the first time that I've heard that there was that issue with the ride line. So clearly that is something that we have staff here tonight. That is certainly something we're going to have to look into. So you're right. I mean, certainly the ride line is there for people to self-serve. The intention of the ride line is not to transfer you into a queue where you have to wait if you're able to do it yourself. So thank you for bringing that to our attention. We will have to investigate if that is happening.
The previous concern to that was online trips being booked, seemingly fine, and then next morning check in and the trip's actually been deleted. So maybe Dean can speak to a review of the website.
No, so again, certainly there at any given time there could be a glitch in the system, but I mean by and large when there are issues from a technological standpoint, our staff are inundated with calls and emails and all those things. So what we'll do for those one-offs, certainly we're interested in hearing the specifics. Sometimes that means that the staff has to delve a little deeper into it and do some investigations on your registration number to see what's happening. But obviously, all right, we apologize. Nobody should lose trips that are scheduled. So if a trip, yeah, I mean, sometimes trips are on a waiting list and we're unable to accommodate, but if they're actually scheduled, they should not disappear. That's for sure. Sorry to hear that.
And then on a so on a related note, there was another lady had asked about a concern about modified trips feature being broken on the website, having reported it a few times with screenshots. It was fixed temporarily, but now it crashes again. So just requesting a review of the modified trips feature.
So duly noted again, and I don't want to sound like a broken record, but this is the type of feedback certainly that helps us ensure that our systems are working the way that they should. If the modified feature is not working as it should, we will get our IT department to look into it, because I think I heard it was fixed at some point in time. So if it could have been fixed, then it should remain in a working order.
There were 2 similar questions about concerns about the re-registration process. One just a general concern, but the other quite specific, asking what are the criteria for re-registration for general criteria, but also sort of in terms of priority for how the order of how people get selected.
So I think, generally speaking, I think this probably is good information for all the individuals who have shown up tonight. So a couple of things to bear in mind. So we've now had a new eligibility process in place for about 2.5 years, almost 2.5 years. And during that time, we've put through about 25,000 customers, of which about 97 to 98% of those customers qualified for some level of eligibility on our service. So I think one of the big messages we want to impart upon everybody today is those who are re-registering, I would not be worried about losing my service. We're looking to categorize individuals based on the new eligibility conditions, which are unconditional, conditional, and with the conditional, I do have to say there are 10 different conditions. So no 2 conditional customers have the same access to service. So that's an important something to bear in mind as well. And then there's temporary, which probably is not applicable to customers who have been on the service more than 2 years. You're not a temporary customer. So I wouldn't worry about that condition in particular. The specific criteria, so I don't know if anybody has had a chance to look at the new applications. They are online. Certainly our customer service staff can send you a form. You don't have to wait until November. You can re-register under the new process anytime. So that's available to you. But essentially it's a two-part application. One part is for the individual themselves to fill out and asks a series of questions, specific questions about how you would be able to travel along the system. Are you able to travel a certain distance? Can you transfer from vehicle to vehicle? These types of questions, we're trying to ascertain your level of ability. But equally important, there's a second part of the questionnaire that's a healthcare professional section. So you would bring this to a healthcare professional. It doesn't necessarily have to be a doctor. There are a number of different healthcare professionals you can use. Nurses, I believe you can use masters of social workers, physiotherapists. So we've listed a number of different options because we need to be flexible. And essentially you're a healthcare professional who should know you very well and should know all of your capabilities and what you can and cannot do, has the opportunity to answer those questions.
Okay, thanks, Dean. There's a next concern, I believe it came from the side of the room, about family of services. If there's a subway delay and you need a connection to a Wheel-Trans trip, and so the subway is delayed, say 15, 20 minutes, is that driver ordered to stay, or what happens to your pickup? Very good question, and probably quite a common concern.
Yeah, it is, and actually that's a question that came up during our advisory committee meeting earlier today. So essentially our dispatchers are going to have access to major service delays. So part of their role is to be able to monitor who's on a family of services trip, and if there's a delay on a subway line, they are to modify that individual's trips. Of course, they would contact the individual if there was a contact number and the person carried a cell phone, which is not always the case. But there's an opportunity to contact the operator to let them know that the subway is down at Jane Station, so that we have to take the customer to Dundas West. So there is a mechanism in place to monitor rides so that you don't miss your Wheel-Trans connection at the other end. The other thing that is correct.
Yes.
So part of the monitoring is also elevator outages. Very good point. Thank you for bringing that up. And
yes.
Understand? Yep, and that could happen for sure, and yep. Yeah, no, we understand. There is a buffer built into your family of services travel time, especially for those customers who are traveling during peak hours when it's very busy. So there is that built in. But inevitably, it is possible that if there are major delays, as if there's major delays to anybody, you could miss your connection. We don't leave customers stranded. There's a phone number to the priority line. We will send a vehicle. Yeah.
Okay. Yes. Well, First, what I want to say, no one on the panel is arguing with your criticism. It's accepted, and we want to improve the system. So the purpose of this meeting is to hear that criticism to help us improve. No one is suggesting otherwise that was not your experience. Right. Okay, so there are a number of people waiting. So can we please bring a microphone, Noah? And you know what? There's one more lady with a sensory disability. I want to get to that answer, and the rest of the meeting will be your question. So it was not intentional, and here's the microphone for you, so everyone can hear the concern.
No, just forget it, because I am too mad right now.
Okay, I'm just asking. We all want to hear your concern, but I ask you to, if you'd like to express your concern, please use the microphone, and we're all ears. The microphone is right there.
Okay, you're listening?
Yes, we're absolutely listening.
I'm living at Sherburne and Bloor.
Yes.
Why would they pick me up at Toronto General and take me all the way west, but Bathurst? The guy says to me, lady, you must be mad with you must upset somebody today. And I didn't pay any attention because I didn't upset anybody. But it's when I get on the Wheel-Trans and go all the way out there, and my back was so sore, and I stand up. He says, lady, I cannot drive with you standing. I would get you an ambulance. I said, no, I don't want you to get me an ambulance because I have my lifeline, and if I want an ambulance, I'll call them. He says, okay, sit 10 minutes. I sat 10 minutes. And he said, we will take the lake shore going back because the street won't be that rough. I shouldn't have to go through all that when it only take about 15 minutes from Toronto General to go to Sherburne and Bloor.
Okay, so it's okay, understood. So it's making sure that your trip is as short and convenient and direct as possible. That's something everyone would want to ensure happens for you. So we can look into what happened there. You shouldn't have been misdirected that way, but allow our staff take that seriously. They want to improve that.
And the next thing, who give the information to
Yes.
the automated machine?
Okay.
Because they always give you the wrong information.
Okay.
I'm going to 340. They gave the driver 360.
Okay, so concern about the accuracy of the automated system to make sure you're getting picked up where you need to be and where you need to go. Very good point.
Yesterday morning, they ask you, what time is your appointment?
Yes.
I said, my appointment is 9:30.
Okay.
They said, I'll pick you up at 9 o'clock. You know when they picked me up? At 9:30.
Okay.
2 other people was in there. Don't tell me about traffic.
Okay.
It's because they have to pick up those 2 other people
Right.
before they can get to me. I was
Okay.
late for my
So
cardiology appointment at the General.
Understood. There are a number of concerns you have raised that I want them to address. There's a lady had raised concerns about a sensory disability, a lady who has lupus, and raising the concern that sedans subject her to extra light and wanting to know if she has the flexibility to order vehicles other than sedans. So maybe, Dean, you could speak to that concern.
Yeah, it's similar to what Dean mentioned earlier about another specific case. These are all things that are looked at by our customer service team, and we look at them on a case-by-case basis. And of course, if you're not capable of using one of our vehicles, we look at giving you a different vehicle. Absolutely.
Okay, so let's go to this side of the room for 3 more questions. My right. Yes.
Yes. I'd just like to ask you about the TTC buses. I am visually impaired, and I do take TTC quite a bit, and I also take Wheel-Trans, especially in the winter. But my question is, when boarding a bus or getting off the bus, I always use the front door, it's safer. But half the time, sometimes we're not too close to the curb, and I have actually almost gone on my nose. I'm wondering, do we have to ask the drivers to pull in closer or put the ramp down? Thank you.
Okay. Let's take 2 more questions from this side of the room. Is there a hand up?
questions.
Yeah, go ahead.
My question's around some features for the app. When you book a ride to somewhere that has multiple entrances, I'll pick St. Michael's Hospital. Your options are emergency, maternity, bond, and shooter. So I know that I'm not emergency. I know I'm not maternity. Bond Street's under construction, so by process of elimination, I picked shooter. Now, when I got there, I realized that shooter is not an accessible entrance, but the modify feature has now disappeared from booking. I'm wondering if there's a way to keep that modify button open, so at least when you arrive somewhere with multiple locations, you can change your entrance or your pickup point at that location with multiple entrances.
Okay, good suggestion. Is there another question or yes, on this side, yep.
Yes, I have a comment and a question.
Yep. Whichever you have, go right ahead.
Okay, the comment is that the service is amazing, and I envy some of the drivers because some of the clients are very impatient, and it takes the patience of Joe for some of these people. But I noticed that recently, last month, that some of the center drivers are very clumsy. Some of the rules have been broken because for sincerity, and for two Saturdays, they've damaged my goods because they were careless. But the van drivers are very professional, more professional than the Sandro drivers.
Okay. So concern, if I have a concern about the sedan drivers?
Yeah,
okay.
the van drivers are much more professional.
Okay.
So that's a question, is observation.
Okay. So I'll have the team speak to that. I want to take three more from this side and then have the team address. So if there's three people on this side who have not asked a question, let's get to all those. So right there, and then Noah, we'll go here next, okay?
Yes, good evening.
We'll get you next.
My name is Ivy Adamson, and I want to say I welcome the re-registration because in the past, I have problem with my registration number servicing two people. I wrote into the TTC and I give them all the information. They said they will let me know. Nothing, I didn't hear any comments from it, nothing. So I think the re-registration will do a lot of good service towards the injustice that is going on. Because there's everything that you have, the real and the counter fee. And another thing I want to ask a question, like when you book in a Wheel-Trans service and you have like your grandchildren under 12, maybe 4, 3, do you have to use them or book as a companion or escort? I don't know what you do book with that.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Okay. So let's take Noah. There's a lady at the. Okay. Yes, of course. There's an extra. Yeah. I'm just. Okay. Well, just a second here.
Is it possible for the driver to call me when he's approaching or he's there so that I can just get out there so I don't have to stand? It's so difficult to stand. And then I don't have to wait. And, you know, I can be right there and we can sort of make a connection that isn't so dragged out. And the other question is when I do booking and they say, you know, your pickup time is, could they have the vehicle right next to it, pick up by Wheel-Trans, pick up by cab, right there at the front, because I have to view details and then scroll down to find out what the vehicle's going to be. But right there, it could be just right, that's all the info I need.
Okay. Yeah, website design question. So why don't, Dean, I pass the mic to you to deal with the website question first, then we'll get to those other questions right after.
So again, if it's there were a few questions, and again, if it's a concern about our current system not working as it should, dropped trips, those kinds of situations, we definitely will need to gather some more information to do a bit of a more deep dive into it. So again, I'm hearing other types of suggestions for improvements, which again is something we want to capture. As you probably know, with a system as large as ours, you have to set certain times to implement phases. So although you could get a great idea, it's not necessarily something that we could turn around and say, oh, let's put that in for next week as well. But keeping an inventory of improvements on how the system will work for customers, work better for customers, is certainly something that we welcome. So we do appreciate that, and it's just a question of how we can implement that and what the timing of that might be. So we would ask that people do bear with us if there are certain aspects that could be improved versus those that are purely not working. So there's really two classes there, but we do welcome the feedback.
The next concern was concern about tripping hazards and needing to perhaps ask drivers to pull in closer and using the ramp more effectively to avoid trips and falls. And maybe that's a driver training type question, Dwayne?
Yeah, so I can address that with, so our bus drivers are trained. They all have what we call AODA training and how to deal with and work with and assist customers with disabilities. Drivers should be pulling up very close to the curb and deploying the ramp anytime that they pull up and are dealing with any customer, either in a wheelchair or with a cane or anything like that. So our drivers are trained to recognize that and be able to pull up very closely to it. So the ramps aren't working is something that we should be reported right away. Most of our drivers, just so you know, all of our drivers before they leave the yard are required to test that ramp. So they have to make sure that it works and it comes back in. If it does not work, the bus doesn't leave the garage. So yeah, so the vehicle should not leave the yard. So it should be working. So there might be some rare cases where it malfunctions en route, but that shouldn't be happening.
So there was another concern about sedan drivers and a recommendation in terms of adjusting the app features or app development. So, and the example was given of St. Mike's, a number of different entrances and exits, and making sure that there's options that are accessible in a flexible drop-down menu.
Yeah, that was a good point, again, that we can look at with our website. And I know Charlene is here, who's working very well on our app, and she's got a note of it. She's nodding at me right now, so we'll look at that as well. It's another option that we'll look at for sure.
So just want to see, from a show of hands, is there anyone who has not asked a question yet who wants to ask a question? So I just want to make sure if there's anyone who hasn't had a chance yet, we'll get, yes, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Susan, and I would like to say I appreciate the service when it does work, and I have attempted to call and speak to Dean a number of times when there has been people in motion, or right now it's the Abilities Expo. But two comments that I would like to be able to make, and I reiterate that the new phone system does not work. It makes you feel like the actual system is built to make it seem like the administration of Wheel-Trans assumes we have nothing better to do than to be on the phone, particularly for those who don't have easy access to the internet, and we're being asked to use the internet whether we like it or have the ability to or not. So I would like to reiterate that not everyone has easy access or independent access without the support of another individual. I would also like to recommend that even though I appreciate all of these information meetings, I would suggest to make the service better for you and for us, please educate the general public, because you're spending all this time educating us on how to use the conventional service. You're scaring people to the point of affecting their mental health. And you're not spending enough time educating the general public so they have an understanding that it will benefit all of us. And we have a right, if we choose to, not forced to, but choose to use any of the services available to us as Canadian citizens. And the other suggestion that I would strongly make is, why is not Wheel-Trans hiring more people with disabilities in order to get them off of ODSP? Use that as a PR for yourselves, and then we will have more understanding of the wait times on the phone if we have the support of having people with disabilities working and off ODSP.
Excellent points. Thank you. Yes. Okay. I'll have staff speak to those points. Is there anyone on this side of the room who would like to ask a question who has not yet? Okay, so those are a number of points that were just raised, so let's get to them. First was a recommendation for an education campaign targeted at the general public to combat ableism on the conventional system, and make sure that those riding the conventional system day to day know that people with disabilities, of course, are accommodated, need to be accommodated and have every right to that system that others do. The other recommendation for Wheel-Trans to hire people with disabilities and to do better recruitment that way, who have knowledge of what it means to ride the Wheel-Trans system to help resolve issues. Another excellent recommendation. And I don't know, Dean, if you want to speak to that, or Dwayne?
Sure. What was that?
Oh, mic's off.
Sorry. What was that last point about?
Oh, the last point was a recruitment to a hiring campaign of people with disabilities who understand the challenges of Wheel-Trans and the conventional system to help actually implement positive change at TTC.
So I would like to say to that particular point, I don't know if you know this or not, we actually do have employees who work at Wheel-Trans who have disabilities. So I just want to make that point clear. I think it's not clear out here. I think you think that everybody that works at Wheel-Trans is able-bodied, but we do, in fact, have several employees who are disabled who work at Wheel-Trans. And if there are, we can't just specifically hire people with disabilities. However, we open up all of our openings to everybody. It's posted on external websites. Whenever there's an opening, you're free to apply, and we are always open to hiring anybody of any capability. So I just want to make that point very clear. We're very proud of the fact that we have employees who have disabilities and that we employ employees with disabilities. We're very, very proud of that. So I want to make that point extremely clear. When it comes to campaigns to the general public, there was, I don't know if anybody have seen the Offer Me a Seat buttons and the posters in subway cars and buses that says, if you spot me, offer me a seat. I don't know if anybody's seen that. There has been there is a campaign out there. We can also talk to our communication teams and see if we can do even more along that front to educate the general public. And I know there was a point about wait times again, and again, we understand the wait time concern. And this another point, I know that not everybody has access to the internet, but on the phone, there is an option. If you're waiting on hold, you can actually use our ride line. If you have your favorites, you don't have to wait on hold. You can use a touch-tone phone. And if you have trouble with that and you'd like assistance with that, you can call our customer service team. We can walk you through that. That's an option that takes 5 minutes. You don't have to wait on hold. It's another option for you, just something that you should keep in mind as well. Give them the education on that ride.
Yes.
Yeah, so the ride line is essentially enables you to schedule, cancel, confirm trips. So it works pretty much like you would be speaking to a reservationist. Now, you do have to become familiar with it, like any new system that you're not used to, but there are people that swear by it. We have customers that have been on the ride line for years and years and years, and even after the internet options were introduced, they stuck with the ride line. So.
I did ask a question about the booking with the
Okay, sorry.
child.
I can only it's one at a time. So, okay. So we're going to. Understood. Okay, we're going to have two more questions, and then we will close things out because we have to be out of the venture.
Question. I haven't heard
a
it
comment,
addressed.
question or comment. Go right ahead.
I asked the question. I didn't hear it addressed.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And I asked about if you're booking a trip, right?
Yep.
And you have a kid, right?
Yep.
How do you book that child? With,
Sorry about that. Yeah.
With as a companion, escort, or how?
Yes. I'm sorry. There was a gentleman walking past when you asked the question. I'm sorry I didn't jot it down. So if you have a child...
And another thing is to, as I said, I welcome the re-registration because several times I've been to my appointment, doctor's appointment, and 2 wheel transportation came for one individual.
Right. Yes. Okay. So those 2 points. So the child and then the re-registration.
So real quick, you again, you should be able to schedule your trip with children. We don't limit the number of dependents that a person can travel with. We do limit the number of escorts and or support persons that a person can travel with. I believe it's 1 of each. But for dependents, children, you can travel with as many as required on a particular trip. If you're taking care of your grandchildren or your children and they're traveling with you, you're able to do so. And with respect to re-registration, I encourage everyone to, as I mentioned, the process is going to happen. So it is, if there's nothing that stops anybody in the room from asking for an application. Not certain if we brought any tonight, but you certainly can contact customer service and one could be mailed out to you and you can start the process ahead of time. You can familiarize yourself with the application, what's involved, what healthcare professional you want to speak to, et cetera, et cetera. So we encourage that, and we also encourage those of you who are interested in travel training. With the advent of the family of services, as we're entering into a warmer, more pleasant times to travel, you can request that you get some travel training, and Desiree Ann, our travel trainer, will do her utmost to get to you as quickly as she can. It's a fantastic time to do so. Okay.
So we're at 8:30. I'm going to take 2 more, and then the meeting will end. There's a lady here, and then a gentleman here who has not asked a question yet. We will speak to you one-on-one. Yes.
I have two suggestions. One of them is that
sorry, just speak right to the mic. Yeah.
The sedan taxis, they are the ones I think so they don't have the destination properly because they're given on the phone and they've taken me to wrong destinations and they ask us. So if we don't know the correct address, that's when there becomes a problem. We dropped at long locations. I'm wondering what kind of training they get. I don't think the sedans, they get proper training.
Okay.
The other one is that the going back ride, my situation was similar to that lady. Coming was 1 hour, but the going, my distance was about 30 minutes, but I was in the taxi for about 2 hours, going all the way. Second pickup was West End. Third was also west, and the drop-off was west, and then I was back to the east.
Okay.
So if you can correct that,
We are going to get removed. So I want to get, there are 2 people who haven't asked a question yet. There's a gentleman, right here, and there's a lady on the side.
If you can fix that
yes.
situation.
Okay, so the sedan training question. So the gentleman here, and if everyone could just keep their voices down, we only have 2 more people who haven't asked a question. Yes, sir, and then a lady on the other side. Yes,
okay.
Go, sir. Ahead, sir.
On the new buses, the buses, they do have a step. But what happens if you cannot get up on the step on that, the new Wheel-Trans buses?
You're speaking about the conventional system or wheel?
On the Wheel-Trans.
On Wheel-Trans buses, okay.
Yeah, on the new ones that they have?
At the back, okay. So question about the Wheel-Trans. So, and there's one more lady on this side, and that will be the last word of the evening. Thank you for being so patient.
I just want to say thanks a lot to TTC
Wheel-Trans for your good service. I have maybe an incident once or twice, but in life, nothing is ever straight. The last thing I was told they would call me back on the phone, and they didn't. And that was okay, because the next 2 or 3 times I left my number, they had phoned me back. So I just wanted to say thank you very much for your service, and we should be thankful to have a service like this in Toronto.
Well, thank you for the kind words. So there were 2 points I wanted to get to before we wrap things up.
And you guys are doing a good job.
All right, thank you, sir.
Because when the snow, you're there.
All right, thank you.
In the winter, you're there. You pick me up right at my door, and I feel good.
Okay,
So thank you very much. You're doing a good work.
Thank you very much. So, question about training for the sedan drivers. You raised a concern not about other wheel-trans drivers, but sedans in particular. Do you want to briefly touch upon the training for sedan drivers?
We have our staff who manage our contracted services here. They're in the back, and they've taken a note of that particular comment, and we'll follow up with our contractors to make sure they're properly trained. They all get the training, but we can always follow up with them.
And the last answer of the night, there was a gentleman who had a concern about the new step on the new Wheel-Trans bus vehicle. So that will be the last sort of answer for the night.
Yeah. So I want to talk with you offline about that. Maybe we can talk personally to see what the concern is there. But if you're not capable of using that vehicle, we can talk about getting a particular
and
vehicle.
with that, thank you all very much. We will be updating our website with notes from this meeting so you can review the Q&A. And thank you very much and have a wonderful evening. Thank you.